Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Jason Weil. This is the Jupyter Frontends call for Wednesday, November 6th, 2024. Thank you so much for joining us. We have 10 people, including myself, on the call today. Today is the first meeting of the month, the first Wednesday of the month, which means it is an accessibility meeting. Accessibility topics have priority. So I have just shared in the chat, and I'll do that one more time for anyone who joined late, the agenda. If you have any accessibility topics, please share them. Share them now. Anyone have any topics they'd like to talk about? I don't think any of mine or Frederick's are specifically about accessibility. All right, well, I'll give people more time as the hour goes on to raise those up. Looking at the agenda, Frederick is not on the call, but for the record, I'll mention what he wrote, which is that if you're on the Front Ends Council, you need to confirm your membership by November 10th. That is this coming Sunday. So you just need to check that you are still interested in being on the council or that you'd like to leave the council. So please take care of that. There's a link in the agenda. I have a few topics that I wanted to discuss. The first is curious about what people think about doing a recurring schedule for doing a minor release. I shouldn't say a point release, but a minor release. 4.0.0 came out last May 2023, and then 4.1.0 came out this past February, 9 months later. Then to get to 4.2.0 took about 3 more months. To 4.3.0 took about 6 months. And so now we're talking about things for 4.4.0. And the common question that I get asked is, when are we going to have that? When is 4.4.0 going to be available? I think it's biasing a lot of people towards requesting 4.3x or even 4.2x as backports. What do people think about having a kind of quarterly recurring schedule or half year or some sort of more predictable schedule for a lab release?
I would think that there is a problem of when we are approaching a major release, like 5.0. What do we do then with this schedule?
That's a good question. We've been asking for a while about like, when is 5.0.0 going to come out? And no one's even seriously tried to answer that question.
I think that the answer would be that we should try to follow the practice. I think Pandas is a good example of doing that only when necessary and not making too many breaking changes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that no one wants a repeat of 4.0 where so many extensions broke.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point we'll accumulate lots of tiny things which we deprecated and just want to drop to improve the life of the maintainers. But yeah, maybe well, most likely it's not going to happen in 2024. Maybe in 2025, maybe in 2026. But that's like likely to happen. It's not like with Python, where
Mm-hmm.
Python 4 is rather unlikely to happen in this decade. Or maybe not,
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, but Python's minor versions are a lot more major. Like I feel like for semantic versioning purposes, Python's versioning is a little different. Um, I agree that like a 5.0.0 release would be pretty major, right? We would expect it to break a bunch of other things. There are already APIs that we've said will be removed in 5.0.0. So that's intended to be, a difficult upgrade. I guess the bigger question is, people sometimes ask me, how do you know when it's ready to get to a new minor release? And the best thing that I could offer is somebody just suggests doing a new minor release. Is that fair?
Well, we 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 do discuss this on these meetings,
Mm,
and yes, someone suggests dates, and we try to see how many pull requests are there, and how much intended work is there, like trying to basically accommodate the needs of different stakeholders
mm,
to get as much work that we can wait for without delaying the release of things that have been already worked on. So I think I personally think that 3 to 6 months is a good target, because like beyond half a year, if someone requested a major feature, they would not be very happy waiting that long.
yeah. I
And
mean, I feel like for bug fixes, oh, go ahead.
doing that more frequently wouldn't be reasonable given the overhead. But yeah, bug fixes, like usually mm, when we were releasing mm, like less tested version, maybe that's not the right way to say that, versions which turned out to have more bugs. We were doing bug fix releases weekly. So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it
I'm
also
seeing some
depends.
bug report. Oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was going to say that for minor releases, it also depends on the bandwidth people have to work on, also not just contributing code, but also reviewing the huge list of PRs that is, always growing. And that affects a lot, like the time to release. We've seen in the past that we were setting some dates for the release, and they were always, you know, too ambitious, but that's fine because it's always the best effort in the end. And I also agree with the Mike's points, I think, for the rest, and the fact that we should not break anything until necessary, until it's really necessary, just for the sake of extension authors who have already suffered a lot for Lab 4. And when it comes to versioning, I think it's also possible to consider releasing JupyterLab 5, but not necessarily bump the JS packages to version 5. So that would mean releasing a new major version for JupyterLab, but without breaking changes for the extension authors. I think that was discussed also at some point before, like having the Python version and the JavaScript versions kind of, be a bit more independent from each other. Yeah.
Okay, any other opinions about this? Um, Speaking of releases, there was a contributor who asked a few weeks ago for a new release of NB Convert, which I don't think got any kind of traction. I asked the Jupyter Frontends Council, and Brian suggested that I contact the Foundations and Standards Team Compass, so which I did. I opened a new issue on that. I'm not sure. We rarely talk about foundations and standards team stuff here. I'm not sure if this is the right meeting for that. But what do people think about, like, are people able to do that? Is there what's the next step to get a new release cut for this?
NB converts. Does it have a releaser setup?
I
I'm
think
not sure. I've
so.
never. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think most of the Jupyter projects, so if someone has admin access or write access to, I would say more admin access on the repo, I think,
I just ran a step one prep release. Oh,
okay. I don't have
accidentally, I
access
ran
to
it
it.
twice. what's going to happen? I'm going to quickly cancel one of the runs. Okay, I will see if I have access. So this is a very quick test, basically running prep release that has no consequences. I suspect I don't have, but we'll know in 1 minute or so. But even if technically we can release, and I believe that we I at least know a person who can release. The question is, like, what version should it be? Do we release backfix? Like, technically, I can help. I can help you make that happen. I would just need some kind of input and info. Do we need to do a major version bump? Have you tested that, etc.? But it seems
Okay.
there isn't that many pull requests merged since the last version.
Yeah, the underlying request for requesting a new release was because there was a fix for that was for 2017 about exporting omitting markdown cells that got merged in back in August, but there hasn't been a new release since then.
Okay, I can confirm that I do not have the release rights, but I know someone who I believe has. So I will ping them. And independently of that, on that issue, was there any reply to your issue on the standards? No.
No, I didn't get any response. I'm not sure who monitors that or if there's somebody I can ping on the front ends team council.
Is there a
Front
list of
ends.
members?
There's a Jupyter front end group. Yeah, but that might not be. No, I don't know who's in that group, to be honest. Front ends triage is myself, you, Mike, Rocio, and Jason Grout. So I think that's the right group to ping.
Can we just check who did the last release?
That would be a good suggestion.
That would be
So Mike
Steve.
just pinged Matthias about that.
Yeah, I do believe that Matthias is able to make releases on that
Okay.
repo.
I know for Jupyter AI, the releaser is set up for one of my teammates, David. So it looks like he is the only person who cuts every release, no matter who runs the workflows, which can be misleading. It looks like NB Convert has the opposite problem where all the releases are cut by GitHub actions. There is no human tagged in any of these.
Well, so you can see who made the release by looking at the GitHub log anyways. It's
Like
just
the
not
GitHub
in the
log?
metadata because it
Oh,
pushes the changelog update
oh,
from
okay.
the account of the person who triggered the release using the releaser. And if on Jupyter AI the credentials are associated with a single person rather than the passwords, the
Oh,
tokens which are stored in the Jupyter Vault, that's probably a thing that we should fix so that there is
well,
no single point of failure.
I think it may be Steve Sylvester then who's been cutting it, but he's been kind of stepping aside
Yeah.
from the stuff lately. So I don't think pinging him is going to be fruitful. Okay. Sorry, I'm scrambled here. There's one other item that I wanted to talk about, which is real-time collaboration, RTC stuff. I've been talking with some folks who are still having some problems, and I've been opening other issues about the RTC prefix showing up when you have Jupyter collaboration enabled. There have been some pull requests that have been open for a little bit about potentially letting users modify or remove that, if I'm understanding it correctly. But we had kind of had that on hold during the 4.3.0 run-up, and I'm wondering what the next step is on allowing users to disable this.
Yeah, I see you link to two PRs. I think one of them, one of them I opened is about the service managers split. So I think again, like to give some context, the two PRs are not like one or the other. They are both they can be both useful for different things. And I personally would like to try to get it done before 4.4, so it can be considered for 4.4. That one. I don't know about the other one yet, because last time we talked about it, I think there were still some discussions to have about maybe the API and how we would like to expose that to extension authors. But in any case, if we want to merge it, I think it would be better to do it sooner in the 4.4 release cycle, so that we have more time to test also during the alpha, beta, and RC phases.
So expanding on that, I just commented on the at content providers 16744 PR, suggesting that we can follow the plan that I posted on October 1st, which is to remove the code for extension matching. So currently the content providers idea is that different content providers will be used depending on the extension. And that code is a little bit different to the code that we use in other parts of the code base for extension matching. And further, we will also like to use that for potentially opening files. So maybe a different set of parameters of arguments would need to be passed to the function to decide which content provider to use. But independent of that, like if we just remove that layer and defer deciding how to match the priority of content provider based on the path or file type, MIME type, whatever, I think we can just document that as an experimental feature, merge that into 4.4 branch, which is mine, and release as soon as possible, because first, I agree with Jeremy that we should test that as much as possible. Second, I know of groups who specifically mentioned that they would like to test RTC in their deployments and provide much more feedback and potentially contribute fixing other bugs in RTC, but this is a blocker for them as long as there is this RTC prefix. They just cannot do that because too many extensions are breaking. So I would, if there is anyone who has time to iterate on the API, I'm happy to take time and review that and merge that and make an alpha release. Otherwise, I will probably get to that in 2 to 3 weeks time at earliest.
Okay. Any other comments about these? Well, this being the accessibility meeting, I see Austin has added in a point about what work is being done related to accessibility. Anything in particular in mind, Austin?
I don't have anything in particular in mind. I just kind of wanted to learn more about what work was being done or what might be coming in like a future update, or kind of seeing what specific issues might be being addressed. I want to kind of I work at Stanford University, and we're looking at trying to help educate like instructional designers and faculty how to make their content accessible. I think last time I was here last month, I was given some really helpful resources. I'm still kind of trying to find time to kind of explore more, but I'm just kind of, curious like what's currently being worked on and what's on the horizon.
Mhm. Um, so I, so a few of us who are on this call do triage every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And to your point, we just had a fairly new contributor from IBM run IBM's accessibility checker on Jupyter Notebook and JupyterLab. Yeah, thanks, Mike. You just dropped in the JupyterLab list of issues tagged with accessibility. There's also a similar query for Notebook. And so they just found a bunch of new some of the stuff is automated. I mean, it's an automated checker that checks for like WCAG compliance. So we triaged these. Nisha, who opened these, came on the call last week to kind of talk about it. We were able to clarify or close some of these existing ones. So we have, I think there's a statement about Jupyter accessibility that we do prioritize WCAG compliance, but we're not quite there yet. Let me see if I can find that. Software sub-project. Yeah, this is from when accessibility was I think, well, it still is a distinct sub-project. Um, yeah, sorry, I'm working slowly here today. So there's an accessibility statement. And then there's an accessibility. If someone could drop in or I can drop in the notebook link.
So the thing with notebook accessibility issues is that unless they are specifically distinct from JupyterLab issues, we usually redirect the issues into JupyterLab because the majority of the code base is in JupyterLab, and Notebook is largely reusing the packages. So if there are issues in the file browser as displayed in Notebook, which is distinct from the file browser displayed in the sidebar in JupyterLab, and that issue would be in Notebook, but like generic color contrast issues would be redirected to the JupyterLab issue tracker. So even if you are only interested in Jupyter Notebook application accessibility, it's also worth screening the list of issues for JupyterLab.
That makes sense. So basically what happens in JupyterLab, a lot of that's being reused code-wise for Jupyter Notebook.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and if you find anything that's not already covered by an existing issue, please open a new issue and we'll look at it. We look at the newly filed issues every week, and usually tag things with accessibility. So, go ahead.
I wanted to mention one issue, which is in particularly tagged for 4.4, and which is a feature which is accessibility related, and that is adding a dedicated plugin for ARIA Live. So basically for screen reader oriented announcements, people coming to contribute and work on accessibility often faced a problem or a need to create generic announcements that something is happening, but doing that in different parts of the code base in a way which doesn't break the DOM structure, doesn't interfere, cleans up after itself, is not trivial. So having a dedicated plugin with a public API would be very nice. And I have some thoughts on how to implement it. I don't have currently any time to do that, but if there is someone with some JavaScript, TypeScript awareness and would like to work on that, I would be happy to guide them and assist with review and making this happen for 4.4. So that's just a plug for one of the issues. Otherwise, there is lots of small issues like with tiny contrast insufficiencies or with the paddings being incorrect. And many of these small issues, I think, make up the bigger picture of JupyterLab and Notebook having many accessibility problems, but I am not currently aware of a single big problem. Like there was an issue with tab navigation, but a lot of work was put into that, and I believe that the most important challenges have been fixed. And similarly for color contrast, I know that Isabella did a lot of great work. There is still an issue of color contrast within the code editor, and because there is many different colors you can use to highlight syntax, but otherwise the color contrast should be broadly accessible. And there is also the content of the notebook, like whether the plots that are produced are accessible, but that's kind of more specific to the kernels that you use and Jupyter protocol itself, whether it has the right way to annotate things with metadata, the alt attribute, etc., rather than Jupyter Notebook or JupyterLab application itself. I think we have Gabriel on the call. I don't know if Gabriel, who is a delegate from the accessibility group to the SSC, has any more thoughts on that?
No. No thoughts to add on that.
Is there any tracking, just out of curiosity, of who's like working on like addressing, like if I like to see a document maybe somewhere where it kind of shows what's currently being worked on regarding relating to accessibility? Is that something like that available?
I mean, this is kind of the nature of an open source project, that there's not the same kind of roadmap or daily stand-up board that you would get if we had like a team working on a more singly focused product. Like most of the issues don't have assignees, and even if they have an assignee, that's not a guarantee that the person is actively working on it. What we sometimes see is people do this as part of like a summer of code project or an internship project or something that's time limited, which kind of forces people to make action and to seek help more actively. But unfortunately, a lot of issues get opened and they're legitimate issues, and then people just request updates on it. And all we can say really is, we'd be happy to look at a pull request if you have one to offer to us.
That makes sense. So like there's like kind of because of the nature of it being open source, there's not really specific tracking unless you can find someone who's really focused on that, like within like a time frame.
In short,
Yeah,
it's a mess. It's just a
it's
mess. There are certain people in Jupyter who are focused on accessibility. So there are definitely people that you can talk to who are experts, and then there are some issues on the GitHub repositories that track, or that are kind of aggregated issues that track some of the accessibility stuff. I'll try to find one of the aggregated issues for you,
yeah. I
and
mean,
I'll drop some contact in the chat for you as well.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you so much, Eric.
to add to that, from my experience in professional software development, a lot of times accessibility issues are motivated by like a commercial incentive. Like, we can't sell this to a particular public school until it meets WCAG standards. In the open source world, there's not really a sales, there's not a monetary incentive. It's more like, let's do a thing because we want to be, good to users who have sight issues or mobility impairments, which is still a good reason. It's just that you now need to find someone who's willing to volunteer their time or who has a grant from an organization to improve accessibility to that end. And that's where, we do rely on the community for this, but we also get, I think, somewhat slow traction on this. And this isn't a matter of open source versus closed source. Most companies I've worked at have had similar problems. Like we occasionally have, yeah, thanks, Eric, for adding that in. We sometimes have people do like audits on JupyterLab or Jupyter Notebook. Nisha from IBM just did one where she ran this automated tool. And it's great because it points out the gaps, but then the next step is, okay, now let's open a lot of issues. I'm looking at this 6800 issue, and there are how many issues opened as a subsidiary of this? At least looks like about 20. So that's good to open all of these. And the next step is, okay, who's going to do this? And when? And what's the highest priority? And open source doesn't really have a notion of like project managers or scrum masters who help to move things along. It's more like, if you're able to work on this, please do. We'd love to have, better accessibility.
That makes sense. I guess like going off what you said about like grants and stuff, like are there any grants or anything that's currently being looked at?
None that spring to mind for me. Does anyone else know about this?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank you. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your help.
So one thing that's interesting is that Jupyter just changed its oversight from NumFocus to the Linux Foundation. And I'm very lucky that in a couple weeks' time I get to go to the Linux Foundation Summit. I don't know, are any of you all on this call going to the summit? I'm hoping to see, I think Fernando is going to be there. Perhaps some other Jupyter people would go. It's going to be in California, in Napa. So I'm looking forward to both talking about the work that my team's been doing and also meeting people in the community, and kind of reaching out. I feel like we're now part of this new organization, and I'm checking out like all the work they've been doing. Linux Foundation's been around for nearly 25 years. And so they have, for example, an accessibility group, and a diversity and inclusion group. So I'm trying to kind of feel out, how can the Linux Foundation's existing structure help make Jupyter better. But I don't have any thing to share in terms of like connections we've made yet. We're still kind of feeling things out.
That makes sense. I really appreciate all the resources.
No problem. And thank you for sharing info about, or your questions about like, what are we doing to improve, accessibility within Jupyter applications. This is why we're here. Yeah, and Eric gives a shout out to Tony and Nick Bolway, who's been working on accessibility, and the discourse forum as well. I'm just reading your comments so they show up on the video. Okay. Any other questions, comments about accessibility? Okay, Mike has an item about Jupyter scheduler rework.
Yeah, this is just a broad question. I know that there's a work to refactor parts of the Jupyter scheduler. That was recently mentioned in one of the issues that I've opened, and I just wanted to check and see whether there's a timeline for that or anything that possibly I could help with. And yeah,
I can talk about it. Oh, please continue. Yeah, please continue. Finish your question.
Go ahead.
So we plan to release it as a 3.12.0. Like my desired release date would be like end of this year. I'm not 100% sure we can hit it yet, but we will for sure try to hit it, and that's the plan. So currently backend with Dask is implemented. There is a PR opened about it. You can check it out. And another thing, so what is now we will work on is integrating front end and the backend. So the work is happening in the branch v3 dev. You can check it out on the GitHub page. And yeah, everything that I'd like to go into 3.0.0 as of now marked with 3.0.0 tag. It's not marked with a tag, it's added to the milestone, right? Yeah, maybe there is some other stuff I'll try to get into 3.0.0, but everything that I'm planning to put on is in the milestone. Something might not get in, but that's the plan.
So I just wanted
Yep.
to reiterate something that mentioned earlier, that there is a big user of Jupyter Scheduler right now, and they would be very happy to test that and potentially help with pull requests, maybe to iron some issues in the user interface. But I guess for that to begin, it would need to be in alpha or beta state, at least something released and not just installing from GitHub. Do you anticipate, like, if you say an ideal target date would be end of the year, so would it be a fair estimate that maybe there will be an alpha in December or beta in December? Or do you plan to go straight to release candidate? Like just to understand and plan ahead.
So I can write out a more detailed plan, but as soon as front end will be integrated with the backend, I'm open to release like alpha or something. So people would be trying it. I just didn't know that there is much like interest in the open source community, so to speak. Taking that into account, yeah, I can plan it out better, publish on the repo, and yeah, but from top of my mind, as soon as front end and back end would be integrated in some state, I can release an alpha.
Okay, that would be amazing. That's really all I wanted to ask. And yeah, I think you've been doing a good job signaling that this is happening for anyone who like was paying close attention. But it's also good to have once it's getting closer to being done to have a public issue with some approximate dates, so that the community can adjust and start testing things as they are becoming ready. Thank you for your work.
Nope. Thanks. Thanks for
All right. I think that's the end of the agenda here. Does anyone else have other topics they want to discuss on the record? I haven't put this on the record, but I can add this. The community call is going to be next week, a week from today at this time, 9 a.m. Pacific. So we won't be having a JupyterLab weekly meeting. We will instead have the community call. Let me get the blog post ready. This is going to be like a mini JupyterCon where people can talk about work they've done, share info. If you know anybody who's been building an application or some sort of cool thing on top, looks like we have a few people who are signed up to demo or talk about things so far. So we're planning on doing short demos and then Q&A. So if you are interested in presenting, we should have some availability. Any other topics to discuss on the record? All right, folks, I'm not hearing anything else, so I'm going to stop the recording. Everyone brace yourselves.